الحقوق علينا اللهم آمين. Then inshallah رب العالمين our third session inshallah Tajweed. Very short theoretical part, very little new things today, and then we'll give a revision of what we have done last time inshallah, last two sessions, and then we'll spend most of the time inshallah with the practice to make sure you have fully digested these rules of Nun Sakin and Tanween and you mastered it, so that inshallah next time you proceed to the next. Huh? So the last 2 weeks we have been focusing on the Nun Sakin and Tanween. The last 2 weeks we've been focusing on Nun Sakina and Tanween, and we finished it, alhamdulillah. We'll revise it later today, but the new hukm today that we're taking is very simple, inshallah. It is related to the Noon as well and the Meme. As we said before, Noon and Meme, they are very much related in Tajweed because they have Ghunna intrinsic to them. What's new today is we're talking about a Noon and a Meme when they have a Shadda. When they have a Shadda. Does everybody know what the Shadda is? You know how it is written? It's like this, like a W. And then it can have a Fatha or Dhamma or Kasra depending on the position of the Shadda, right? And Shadda technically is basically as if you're having two letters that you merge them into one letter. The Shadda technically is the first letter, like let's say there's a Shadda with a Noon. This means you have merged a Noon, Sakina, with a Noon with another Haraka, and then you merge them into one letter, and then you put a Shadda with Fatha, which tells you that these used to be two Noons. First one have a Sukoon, the second one has a Fatha. So what we're talking about today is the Noon and the Meme when they have a Shadda on top of them. What is their hukm? Very simple. You make a Ghunna. You make a Ghunna, and it's also a Ghunna with two Haraka. It's the time, Haraka means the time taken to make the Ghunna. So two Harakas means you're counting 1, 2, right? Now, this Ghunna you do it regardless of whether this Noon and Meme Mushaddadatayn, whether you continue reading or whether you stop on this Noon or Meme. So again, this Ghunna that you make for the Noon and the Meme when they have a Shadda on top of them, you do it whether you waslan, whether you continue reading after them, or whether you stop at them. Sometimes it's actually not good to stop on them because it might change the meaning, but sometimes some of the shuyukh, they would ask you to stop at a specific word for testing. They call it lil-ikhtibar, right? So here are some examples. In Noon, this ayah, لم يطمثهن إنس لم يطمثهن. See what I did? Because it has shadda and a fatha. And then I'm continuing. لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم. Now what if I stop? Technically I should not stop, but if my sheikh is testing me, he might ask me, stop there. How would I say it? I would say, لم يطمثهن. I would still make the Ghunna. But now there is no fatha, because we said before when you stop, إذا وقفت فسكن. If you stop, you apply sukoon. So you apply sukoon, but the shadda and the Ghunna is still there. Now if it comes at the end of the ayah, same rule. لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا جان. Did you notice what I did in the last Noon? Again, I stopped, but I made a Ghunna. It was a Ghunna, although I stopped. Let's say Surah Al-Naba. عَمَّ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ عَمَّ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. Suppose I want to stop for testing. I would say عَمَّ. And then if I want to continue, I would say عَمَّ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. The only word in the Mus'haf that has a Meme and Noon mushaddadatayn in the same word is this word. فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ. فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ. Both at the Meme and at the Noon. This is as simple as it goes. Noon and Meme mushaddadatayn. When you have a shadda on top of a Noon or a Meme, you give them a Ghunna, two harakas, whether you stop at that letter or whether you continue reading beyond it. Clear, inshallah, and easy? Any questions? Okay, that's it. That's the new part for today. Now, I want to give a quick revision on what we have done so far on the Nun Sakin and Tanween, and kind of an algorithm that basically helps you as you're reading, how would your mind should basically proceed in seeing the Nun Sakin and Tanween. How should you be thinking? If so, okay? And all of that relies, inshallah, on the Mus'haf Madani. The Mus'haf Madani, the way the Tanween and the Nun Sakina are written are very clear, and they help you a lot when you're trying to apply the Ahkam al-Tajweed. Technically, if you read from the Mus'haf al-Madani, the only letters you have to memorize is Yarmanu. Because beyond that, you can use the signs, the way the Tanween is written, or the Sukun is written, to actually get to the Hukm. So let's revise. We said we covered the Nun al-Sakina and Tanween. Nun al-Sakina means it has basically a Sukun, which basically you stop on it. Or a Tanween, which usually comes at the end of a word. Can a Tanween come in the middle of the word? Can it come in the middle of the word? Never. Okay? So now here's the algorithm. If you see a Nun in the middle of the word, you will never see a Tanween at the middle of the word, right? If you see a Nun in the middle of the word, here's the algorithm. Either you see Ra'sul Ha, a head of a small Ha on top of it, then what is the hukm? Izhar, right? That's the hukm. And if you want to confirm for yourself, that's your second level confirmation, you would look at the next letter that's coming after it. It would be one of the 6 letters. Hamza, Ha, Kha, Ayn, Ghayn, right? You don't have to memorize the letters. If you keep a good track of this sign, you don't even need to memorize the letters. Now, if I see a Nun that has nothing on top of it in the middle of the word, then what is that? Ikhfa. If I see a Nun that doesn't have on top of it, no haraka on top of it at the end of a word, that's more complex. We'll get to it. But if you see a Nun that has no haraka on top of it in the middle of the word, that's only ikhfa. If you see a Mim on top of the Nun in the middle of the word, then this is Aqlab. So in the middle of the word, you only have 3 options. You remember the Nun al-Sakinah have 4 types of ahkam. If it is happening in the middle of the word, then it has to be Nun only, and it's only one of 3. If you see Ra'sul Ha, it's an Idhar. If you see a Nun that doesn't have anything on top of it, then it's Ikhfa. If you see a Mim written on top of the Nun, then it is Iqlab. And once we get to the Idgham, we will again stress the difference between how you pronounce the Idgham and the Ikhfa. Now, if you come to the end of the word, آخر الكلمة. Now, in that case, آخر الكلمة could be either a Nun or it can be a Tanween, either this or that. So what is the algorithm? The first 2 are very simple. Again, if Nun coming at the end of the word and you see Ra'sul Ha, then it is Idhar. Again, if you want to confirm for yourself, you will see that it's followed by one of the 6 letters, Huruf al-Idhar al-Halqiyya, right? If you see a Nun coming at the end of the word and there is a Mim on top of it, you would say it's going to be Aqlab. So the first one I would pronounce it Min Khawf, full Nun, Min Khawf. This one I would say Mim Ba'd, purse your lips, because a Mim is harf coming out of your lips. Mim Ba'd, there is no Nun. And there's a Ghunna as well. Now, the important part, the differentiation, which will apply here and will apply here as well, is if you see a Nun coming with no haraka on top of it at the end of a word, which is, I chose an example of the word min, or men. Now, I start applying the algorithm. I look at the next letter, because if this is Nun with no haraka on top of it, if it was in the middle of the word, it is just ikhfa, simple. But if it's coming at the end of the word and there is no haraka on top of the Nun, then it could be either of 2 things. It could be idgham or ikhfa. It could be idgham or ikhfa. Now I have to use my memorized letters. I look at the next letter after the Nun, the first letter of the following word. If it is one of Yarmalun, then it is idgham. If it is not, then it is ikhfa and I'm done. If it's idgham, I have one more step that I have to follow. Is it from yanmu? Is it a ya or a noon or a mim or a waw? If yes, then it is idgham with ghunna. If it is a lam or a ra, then it is idgham without ghunna. I'll repeat. The algorithm. I'm looking now, and we said it's nun sakina and tanween. I'm talking about if you have a nun sakina coming at the end of the word. If it has Ra'sul Ha, it is Izhar. If it has Mim on top of it, it is Iqlab. If it has nothing on top of it, then you have two options. It could be two things, idgham or ikhfa. And now I use the algorithm of Yarmalun. I look at the next letter. If the next letter coming after the noon is one of the 6 letters of the word Yarmalun, then it is idgham. And then I have to take one additional step to know is it idgham with ghunna or without ghunna. If it is one of the 4 letters of ya, noon, mim, waw, it is idgham with ghunna. If it is lam or ra, then it is idgham without ghunna. If when I looked here at Yarmalun, it's not Yarmalun. If Yarmalun is no, then it's ikhfa. Simple. Now, how will I pronounce each of these? Here, I would say man yaqul. Where was the emphasis? On the noon or on the ya? Yeah, because it's an idgham. If it is, so this was an example of idgham with ghunna because it's a ya. With this one, min dabba, where was the emphasis? On the noon because it's an ikhfa. And for man yaqul, you could hear my nose moving because there is a ghunna. But if it was some other letters, not the yanmu, let's say min rabbil alameen, min rabbil alameen. That's an idgham without ghunna. I just completely, the noon has been completely engulfed into the ra. Nothing is left from the noon. La dhatiha wa la sifatiha. Nothing is left. So is this clear? How you would process when you see a noon that has no haraka. This is usually what needs most of your work. This one, if you're keeping a careful eye while you're reading, it's very obvious. This is the one that needs some processing in the beginning. But as you apply it more and more, it will inshallah stick and become very easy for you. Clear inshallah? Now, this is the noon. آخر الكلمة, at the end of the word, it can either be a noon sakina or it can be a tanween. Okay? Also, the first 2 situations are very easy. Why? Because if the tanween is with dam, and I see a waw that has an umbrella on top of it, then it is idhar. If I see tanween with fath or with a kasr that has the 2 signs of fath or the kasr exactly equal, exactly parallel, then it is also idhar. Then idhar, my clue is, the easiest clue is to look at how the tanween is written, how it is drawn in the mushaf, rasm al-mushaf. If it is a waw with on top of an umbrella on top of it, or the tanween is fath or tanween al-kasr, 2 equal and 2 exactly parallel fath signs, then it is izhar. By the way, historically, this used to be alifs. And then over time, Rasm al-Mushaf, they started to make it like inclined, right? This used to be 2 alifs and this used to be 2 alifs, okay? So if I see this waw with an umbrella, those 2 fath, this 2 kasr, then it is izhar. How would I read it? Alimun hakim, haliman ghafura, yawma idhin khashi'ah. Simple. Inshallah. Now, if I see the tanween, which has to come at the end of a word, and there is the tanween has a meme on top of the tanween, whether it is with dam or with fath, and you see a meme on top of the tanween, then it's easy, it's an iqlab. And then once you see that, to confirm to yourself, if you look at the next letter, it's going to be what? Ba. And if you looked here in the izhar, what would be, if I see this sign or this sign or this sign, what is it? What would be one of the letters coming after it? What would it be? What are those? Yes, حروف الإظهار الحلقية, because they come from the back of your mouth. Hamza, ha, ha, kha, ayn, ghayn. Okay? Now, the last part. Here there was like izhar and iqlab were simple, very easily differentiated. Here, the issue we had was when the noon has no haraka. Here, the issue we'll have in the tanween, if the tanween with dam is written as 2 waws. Or the tanween with fath or kasr are 2 sliding signs, 2 sliding alifs. On top of the alif, if it is tanween with fath, or below the letter, if it is tanween with kasr. Now, if I see these signs, 2 waws or 2 sliding alifs for the fath or the kasr, then I will apply the same algorithm of Yarmalun. Once I see these signs, this or this or this or this, then it is either an idgham or what? Ikhfa. It's idgham or ikhfa. How would I know? I look at the next letter. If it is from Yarmalun, then it's an idgham. And then I look, is it from ya, noon, mim, waw, then it's idgham with ghunna. If it is lam or ra, it's bighayr ghunna. Whereas in the algorithm, if I don't see Yarmalun, then it is إخفاء. So this part is very similar to this part. The way the إظهار and إقلاب are drawn or lettered, their clues in the Mus'haf are very simple, very easy. The only part that you need to focus on is how can you differentiate between الإدغام والإخفاء. The easiest clue is to look at how the haraka is written here in the case of noon, coming at the end of the word, then there is no haraka on top of it. Then I look at the next letter and I apply the Yarmalun algorithm. In that case of the tanween, I would look at how the tanween is written. Is it two waws, or is it two fatha sliding over each other, or is it two kasras sliding below each other? And then if I see them this way, then it is either idgham or ikhfa. And then you look at the next letter, which determines whether it's idgham, if it's yarmalun. And if it's yarmalun, next level is yanmu, it's ghunna. La man ra, it's bighayr ghunna. Or if it was not yarmalun from the top, then it is ikhfa. So you should never confuse idhar or iqlab with idgham and ikhfa. That's an easier block. The only part that needs your focus is this. Okay? Go ahead.
You read the words from the two lines. Can you also read the words from the other lines?
You mean this one?
You read the first two lines, yeah.
Oh,
Can you
okay.
read the third line?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, رجما, okay, رجما بالغيب. The same. See, the حكم في الإقلاب is the same whether it's a noon or a tanween. You purse your lips and you're converting the tanween or the noon sakina into a meme and you make a ghunna with your nose. رجما بالغيب. This ayah is from Surah Al-Baqarah. برق يجعلون. برق. Again, the emphasis is on the yeah. مثلا ما, because these two are idgham with ghunna. And then those two are ikhfa. So the emphasis will be in the next letter. I'd say قنوان. Sorry, it's going to be on the noon itself. I apologize. The emphasis on the noon itself. قنوان دانية. قنوان دانية. And this one, ريحا صرصرة. ريحا صرصرة. Remember, the ikhfa is kind of a middle ground between full idhar and full idgham. Ikhfa is somewhere in the middle. And idhar, you fully pronounce the noon and its sifa, which is the noon and there's no ghunna. But the noon is completely clear. Idgham, the noon is almost completely engulfed, and then ikhfa is somewhere in the middle. And in idgham, your emphasis is on the next letter. In ikhfa, your emphasis is on an-nun as-sakina or the tanween itself. Is this clear? Any questions? So, if I see a noon that doesn't have any haraka on top of it, in the middle of the word, what are my options? What could it be?
It should be ikhwa or...
No. If I see a noon, remember, we're talking about noon as-sakina and tanween. If I see a noon in the middle of a word that has no haraka on top of it, what are my options? What could it be? Huh? What do you think? Bakr. Ikhfa only. That's the only option. Why? Because it's in the middle of the word. In the middle of the word, you only have three options. It's either idhar or ikhfa or iqlab. There is no idgham in the middle of the word. Remember last time when we said that if why there is no idgham? Why can't you have an idgham in the middle of the word? Because it's, let's say for instance, qinwan, this word, and this word sinwan. Technically, this is a nun sakina, right? And it's followed by waw, which is one of huruf yarmalun, right? Yeah. If I wanted to apply idgham, what would I say? Qinwan, a completely different word. Sinwan, I would say sinwan, a completely different word. That's why you never apply idgham in the middle of the word. Idgham only comes if the nun sakina or tanween are coming at the end of one word. And then you look at the first letter of the next word as your clue for knowing the hukm. Or an easier clue is basically looking at how the hukm is actually written, how the dhamma or how the noon is written. Clear? Is there any confusion? Most of your focus will be in this piece. That part, differentiating إخفاء from إدغام. إظهار and إقلاب in all places, whether it's a noon or tanween, clear inshallah and easy. Okay, any final questions? I think inshallah we're done for today in terms of the theoretical part. Let's spend more time today inshallah reading Quran with your, in whatever halaqa you're in, to make sure that you're applying this. And please, whoever is leading Islam and Nader and Bakr, if you're reading, ask whoever is reading on each noon, on each tanween, what is the hukm, even if he or she did it right. Make sure that you know what is the hukm to confirm it. Go ahead.
Here we do a quick test on the first area here.
Okay,
See if we can get two hukm from this side in this area.
okay, because I haven't drawn them yet. Okay, so what is the hukm in this? Insun qablahum. Insun qabl. And I'm gonna draw it this way. Okay, so that's very clear. Huh. What is the hukm here? Ikhfa. Why?
Because you already pronounced it.
Huh?
Both.
Huh?
Hatta noon is second is
Correct.
That's another one. I was just asking, I wanted to start with this one, but you're right. Those two are ikhfa. Why? Because the way I've written, of course, like there is nothing here. So a noon that doesn't have anything on top of it in the middle of the word, it is ikhfa. That's easy. This one is the one that needs some thinking. You have two waws, so once you see two waws, then you jump to the algorithm. It's either idgham or ikhfa. And now you look at the next letter. What's the next letter? Is it from yarmalun? Then it's ikhfa. So in ikhfa, what is the emphasis? Is it on the tanween or on the qaf? Huh? Ikhfa. Where is it? On the noon itself. Insun qablahum. I want somebody to pronounce this stopping at the noon. One from the youngsters. I would pick Hamza. يلا حمزة، اقرا حمزة دي. اقرا كده حد هنا. لم يطمثهن، اقراها صح كده؟
أي واحدة؟
دي لم يطمثهن. وقف عند النون، هتقراها ازاي؟
أنا مش شايفة.
تقرب شوية.
هو بيقول إيه؟ مش شايفة.
لم يطمثهن. انت عايز تقرب شوية كمان؟
لا أنا شايفة.
طيب هتقراها ازاي؟ How would you read it?
لم يطمثهن.
أحسنت، برافو عليك. Excellent, Hamza. What did Hamza do? He stopped there, right? But there is a noon mushaddada. So you still have to put the ghunna, but there is no haraka. So he basically applied the shadda and the ghunna, but he did not apply the fatha. He said, لم يطمثهن. Right? If I were to continue, I would say, لم يطمثهن إنس. يطمثهن. Now I applied the fatha because I continued reading. Okay? Any other questions? Anybody else want to get tested? Okay, let's start it inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك.
Brother Ahmed, what is the name of this one? Because we have like Idhar, Ikhfa.
Which ones? This one?
Yeah.
It's just ghunna. Just ghunna. You just apply ghunna. That's all. Ghunna. Like this is called أحكام النون الساكنة والتنوين. This one is basically النون والميم والمشددتين that have a shadda. Their حكم is ghunna. That's it.